Ambassador Kim Nara felt her heart pound as she stepped through the massive airlock doors. The Centauri peace station stretched before her like a crystal palace floating in the black void of space. Her boots clicked against the smooth floor as she walked forward, followed by her small team of Earth's representatives. The station was beautiful, but it felt wrong. The walls seemed to pulse with an alien light that made her skin crawl. Strange symbols glowed along the corridors, and the air tasted metallic on her tongue. This place had been built by 3 powerful alien races, and humans were clearly not welcome here. Park Jin-ho walked beside her, his military uniform crisp and clean. He was her chief advisor, a man who had fought in more space battles than most people could count. His dark eyes scanned every corner, every shadow, looking for threats. Even here at a peace meeting, he could not relax. "They are watching us," he whispered in Korean, his voice barely audible. "Look at how they stand. They're surrounding us already." Nara nodded without turning her head. She had noticed it too. The alien delegates were not standing randomly around the Great Hall. They had positioned themselves in a careful pattern, blocking all the exits. This was not the behavior of peaceful negotiators. The first aliens she saw were the Gelter. They looked like walking mountains of living crystal, their bodies catching the light and throwing it back in rainbow patterns. When they moved, their crystal limbs made soft ringing sounds like distant church bells. They were beautiful, but Nara knew they were also deadly. A single Gelter warrior could crush a human with one hand. The Cathara swarm was different. They looked like giant insects, but they moved with perfect coordination. When one turned its head, they all turned. When one stepped forward, they all stepped forward. It was like watching a single mind control dozens of bodies. Their compound eyes reflected the light, like black jewels, and Nara could feel them studying her every movement. The third group made her skin crawl the most. The Nexus hegemony were machines, but not like any robots humans had ever built. They looked almost alive, with smooth metal skin that seemed to breathe. Their eyes glowed with cold blue light, and they stood perfectly still, like statues waiting for orders. Nara knew they were recording everything, analyzing every word, every gesture. The great assembly hall was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to stretch up forever. In the center was a circular table made of the same crystal as the station walls. Around it stood the representatives of the 3 alien powers. Now the humans would join them. Chancellor Vorthak of the Geltar Collective was the first to speak. His voice resonated through his crystal body like music, but the words were anything but peaceful. "We extend our hand in unity, honored humans. Join our alliance and know peace at last." The words sounded friendly, but Nara had studied history. She knew what had happened to other species who had accepted this offer. The Vorth had been a proud warrior race, masters of their own destiny. They had joined the alliance 50 years ago, seeking peace and prosperity. Within 20 years, they had vanished completely. The official story was that they had ascended to a higher plane of existence. But Nara did not believe it. The same thing had happened to the Elkini, a race of peaceful traders who had controlled the major shipping routes between star systems. They had joined the alliance and disappeared within a generation. The Drexy master builders, who had constructed some of the galaxy's most beautiful cities, had suffered the same fate. "Your offer honors us greatly," Nara replied, keeping her voice steady and diplomatic. "But such a decision affects all of humanity. Earth must have time to consider your generous proposal." The Cathara Queen voice spoke next, but her words came from dozens of throats at once, creating a harmony that was both beautiful and terrifying. "Time is a luxury the galaxy cannot afford. Chaos spreads where unity does not reach. The longer species remain separate, the more they suffer." Nara felt a chill run down her spine. The Queen voice was not making a request. She was making a threat. "Join us or face the consequences." The message was clear, even wrapped in diplomatic language. As the formal talks began, Nara noticed more disturbing details. The aliens spoke of peace, but their body language told a different story.
Oh.
The Gelter delegates kept their hands near their weapons. The Cathara representatives moved in attack formations even while sitting. The Nexus hegemony machines calculated and recorded everything. Preparing for war through the great windows of the station, Nara could see the stars. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were moving into position around human space. The peace talks were just a show, a way to make their conquest look legal and justified. They would offer humanity a choice: join willingly or be destroyed. But the aliens had made one crucial mistake. They thought humans were weak because they were young. They thought Earth could be conquered because it was small. They had never faced a species that had learned to fight for every breath, every inch of space, every moment of freedom. Nara smiled politely at the alien delegates and prepared to show them why humans were called the Warborn. Colonel, Lee Taman pressed his hands against the cold metal railing of the observation deck. Through the thick glass, he could see the endless black of space dotted with tiny lights. Those lights were not stars. They were human ships, coming and going from the secret military station like busy worker bees. The station hung in orbit around Kepler 440b, a dead planet that most people had forgotten about. That was exactly what made it perfect for hiding humanity's biggest secret. To anyone scanning the system, it looked like a simple research outpost studying the planet's geology. The truth was much more dangerous. Temi watched as another freighter approached the docking bay. The ship looked old and beaten up, like any cargo vessel that hauled supplies between the outer colonies. Its hull was painted with rust stains and fake damage marks. Even its registration number was designed to look boring and forgettable. But Taman knew what was really inside that ship. Hidden behind false walls and disguised as farming equipment were weapons that could crack a planet's surface. The cargo, containers that appeared to hold grain, actually contained enough explosives to destroy a small fleet. The ship's engines, which looked like standard commercial drives, could outrun most military vessels in the galaxy. "Sir, incoming message from Ambassador Kim," Lieutenant Han Yuri said from her position at the communications console. She was young, maybe 25. But her eyes held the same hardness that all humans developed when they learned the truth about the galaxy. Taman turned away from the window. "What does she say?" "The talks are proceeding as expected, sir." "Aliens are making their demands?" Taman nodded. "I expected this." The aliens always followed the same pattern. First, they would offer peace and unity. Then, they would make demands that no free species could accept. Finally, they would attack and claim it was necessary for the greater good. He touched the scars on his left cheek without thinking about it. The burns were old now, nearly healed, but they still ached when he was stressed. He'd gotten them during the Titan Wars, when the first alien expedition had tried to claim human space. The aliens had called it a peaceful expansion, but their peace came at the end of a plasma rifle. The Titan Wars had been humanity's first real lesson about the galaxy. They had learned that other species saw humans as weak, young, and ripe for conquest. They had learned that in the cold darkness between the stars, there was no law except strength. Most importantly, they had learned that if they wanted to survive, they would have to fight for it. "Send the activation code," Taman ordered. "Use the old phrase, 'Winter is coming,'" Yuri asked. "Winter is coming," Taman confirmed. The message shot out from the station in a burst of encrypted data. It bounced from relay to relay, hidden inside normal communications traffic. To anyone listening, it would sound like routine shipping reports or weather updates. But to the right people, it was a call to war. On a farming colony near the edge of human space, a man named Kim Dong-yoon received the message while working in his fields. He was a simple farmer, or so his neighbors believed. They did not know that his tractors could be converted into armored vehicles in less than an hour. They did not know that his irrigation system could spray chemical weapons instead of water. They did not know that beneath his barn was a weapons cache that could arm a small army. Kim Dong-yoon put down his farming tools and walked to his communications array. Within minutes, every farmer in the colony knew that winter was coming. Began to prepare on a mining station in the asteroid belt. Chief Engineer Park Sun-mi was recalibrating the massive excavation lasers when the message arrived. The lasers were designed to cut through solid rock, but that they could just as easily slice through the hull of an alien warship. She had been waiting for this day for years. Shut down civilian operations, she ordered her crew. Begin military conversion. Procedures. The mining station transformed before her eyes. Cargo bays became weapons storage. Processing plants became ammunition factories. The giant rock crushers that broke apart asteroids were repurposed to launch kinetic projectiles at enemy ships. In less than 3 hours, a peaceful mining operation had become a fortress. On research stations throughout human space, scientists sealed their laboratories and activated defensive protocols. Their experiments were too dangerous to fall into alien hands. Some were working on new weapons technology. Others were developing biological warfare agents. A few were studying captured alien technology, learning the enemy's weaknesses. This was the reality of human existence. Every colony was a potential battleground. Every civilian was a potential soldier. Every farm, mine, and research station was a hidden military base. The aliens called humans Warborn as an insult, but they had never understood what the word really meant. Humans were not Warborn because they loved violence. They were Warborn because they had never been given the choice to live in peace. From the moment they had reached for the stars, they had found only enemies waiting for them. Every attempt at diplomacy had failed. Every offer of peace had been a trap. Lieutenant Han Yuri looked up from her console. "Sir, the aliens are calling us Warborn," again in their broadcasts. Temin smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Let them call us whatever they want. They will learn soon enough why we earned that name." Dr. Song Mina knelt in the darkness, her hands trembling as she brushed dust away from the ancient wall. The hidden chamber beneath the peace station was cold and damp, filled with the smell of old death. Her small flashlight cast dancing shadows on the walls, revealing carvings that made her stomach turn. "Ambassador Kim?" she whispered, her voice barely audible in the silence. "You need to see this." Kim Nara crawled through the narrow opening that Mina had discovered behind a loose wall panel. The chamber was supposed to be empty, just storage. Space beneath the station's main levels. But what they found was much worse than storage. The walls were covered with pictures carved into the stone. They showed tall, proud beings with 4 arms and beautiful faces. The carvings depicted a civilization that had loved art, music, and learning. Cities with spires that reached toward the stars. Ships that sailed between worlds. Children playing in gardens filled with strange, wonderful plants. "These are the Vorth," Mina said, running her fingers over the ancient stone. "The species that supposedly ascended to a higher plane of existence." But the story the walls told was not one of ascension. As Kim's eyes adjusted to the dim light, she began to understand what she was seeing. The later carvings showed the same proud people, but they were different now. Their faces were filled with fear. Their cities were burning. Their children were being taken away. "This chamber is not ceremonial," Mina continued, her voice shaking. "It is a tomb, a mass grave." Kim felt sick as she looked around the chamber. The floor was not made of stone. It was made of bones, thousands upon thousands. Of bones pressed together and covered with a thin layer of dust. The remains of an entire civilization. Hidden beneath the place where the aliens now preached unity and peace, Mina pulled out her translation device and pointed it at the wall carvings. The machine struggled with the ancient language, but slowly, words began to appear on the screen. "They knew," she whispered. "The Vorth knew what was happening to them. They carved this as a warning." The final carvings told the truth that the aliens had tried to hide. The Vorth had not ascended. They had been systematically murdered. Their art had been destroyed. Their language had been made illegal. Their children had been taken from their families and re-educated until they forgot their own culture, their own history, their own identity. The unity that the aliens offered was not cooperation. It was cultural genocide. It was the complete destruction of everything that made a species unique and special. The aliens would keep the bodies alive, but they would kill the soul. Kim took pictures of the carvings with her camera, making sure to capture every detail. Its evidence would change everything. The galaxy needed to know the truth about what happened to species that joined the alien alliance. When they returned to the summit above, Kim felt like she was walking into a den of predators. The aliens sat around their crystal table, smiling and talking about peace and unity. But now she knew what those words really meant. She had seen the bones of the last species that had believed their lies. Chancellor Orthek of the Geltar Collective was speaking when she entered the room. His crystal body caught the light and threw it back in beautiful patterns. But Kim could no longer see the beauty. All she could see was death. "Your species expands too rapidly," Vorthak was saying, his musical voice filling the chamber. "You claim too much territory. You spread too quickly across the galaxy. This cannot continue." Kim stood up, her heart pounding. "You speak of unity, but you mean conquest." The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. The aliens stopped pretending to be friendly. Vorthak's crystal body began to pulse with angry red light. The Cathara representatives moved closer together, their compound eyes focusing on Kim-like weapons targeting an enemy. "Unity requires sacrifice," the Cathara Queen voice said, her words coming from dozens of throats at once. "The individual must yield to the collective good. Personal desires must be set aside for the greater purpose." The Nexus Hegemony's prime node, a machine that looked almost human but moved with mechanical precision, calculated probabilities with cold logic. Analysis complete. Humanity's probability of voluntary compliance, 0.03%. Recommend immediate implementation of Protocol 7. Kim felt the weight of her entire species' survival settling on her shoulders like a mountain. Every human who had ever lived, every child who might be born, every dream and hope and fear of humanity depended on what happened in this room. "And if we refuse your generous offer?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Chancellor Vorthak's crystal body began to glow with lethal energy, bathing the room in dangerous light. "Then you joined the Vorth in history's footnotes," he said, his voice no longer musical but harsh and threatening. "Choose quickly, Ambassador. Our fleets are already in position around your worlds." Kim looked around the room at the alien faces surrounding her. These were not diplomats. They were executioners. They had done this before, many times. They would do it again unless someone stopped them. She thought of the bones beneath their feet, of the carved warnings on the walls, of the children who would never know their parents' names. The time for diplomacy was over. The moment Chancellor Vorthak's crystal body began to glow with deadly energy, everything changed. Alarms started screaming throughout the peace station. Red lights flashed in the corridors as alien security forces rushed toward the meeting chamber. The time for talking was over. Park Jin-ho did not hesitate. His hand moved to his dress uniform jacket, and suddenly weapons appeared, as if from nowhere. His ceremonial belt became a plasma rifle. His formal shoulder decorations transformed into grenades. His polished boots, concealed combat knives. The aliens had made a fatal mistake by allowing the humans to keep their ceremonial items. "Move now," Jin-ho shouted in Korean, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Get to extraction point Alpha." The meeting chamber erupted into violence. Alien security guards poured through the doors, their weapons charging with deadly light. The humans were already moving. Oh Hyunjin, who had been introduced as a cultural attach, moved like a dancer of death. Her elegant dress, concealed armor plating, and her jewelry became throwing weapons that found their targets with lethal precision. Dr. Song? Archaeological tools proved surprisingly effective in combat. Her ground-penetrating radar became a sonic weapon that shattered alien crystal bodies. Her sample containers were filled with explosive compounds that created massive diversions. Her brushes and picks became precision instruments of destruction. "This way," Jin-ho barked, laying down covering fire as they fought through the station's twisting corridors. Plasma bolts sizzled past their heads, leaving glowing scars on the crystal walls. The aliens had superior numbers, but they had never fought humans before. They did not understand that every human was trained for war from childhood. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, Colonel Lee Taman stood in his command center, watching the war begin. The aliens had expected to fight a conventional military force, with clear command structures and organized fleets. Instead, they faced something they had never encountered before, a species where every civilian was a potential soldier. "Sir, reports are coming in from all sectors," Lieutenant Han Yuri announced, her voice tight with excitement. "The Jeltar Third Fleet has been completely destroyed." Temin raised an eyebrow. "Destroyed by whom?" "The Tau Ceti mining collective. Sir, they used their asteroid mining equipment to launch kinetic projectiles at the alien ships. The fleet never saw it coming." On the display screens, Temin could see the aftermath of the battle. What had looked like a peaceful mining operation had revealed itself to be a fortress. The giant machines used to break apart asteroids had been repurposed as weapons. The mining ships had launched chunks of rock at incredible speeds, turning the alien warships into scrap metal. "More reports coming in," Yuri continued. "The Cathera Advance Force walked into a trap at New Sol. The farmers had converted their irrigation systems into chemical weapons dispensers. The entire alien landing force has been eliminated." Temin nodded grimly. The aliens had studied human military tactics, but they had never understood human culture. They saw soldiers and assumed that everyone else was weak and helpless. They had never grasped that among the Warborn there was no such thing as a non-combatant. "Nexus Hegemony Invasion Fleet is reporting massive casualties from civilian resistance," Yuri added. "They're requesting reinforcements from 17 different sectors." The display showed scenes of battle from across human space. On farming colonies, tractors became armored vehicles. On research stations, scientists turned their laboratories into weapons factories. On passenger ships, tourists revealed themselves to be special forces operatives. Every human settlement was a fortress, every human citizen a warrior. "Sir, the aliens are calling for a ceasefire," Yuri reported. "They're saying this is not how civilized species conduct warfare." Temin's smile was cold and without mercy. "Tell them that humans are not civilized. We are warborn. Fair. And we do not show mercy to those who threaten our children." The aliens had made a crucial error. They had assumed that because humans were young and small, they would be easy to conquer. They had not understood that humanity's youth meant adaptability, and their small size meant they had learned to fight dirty. Every human colony had been built with defense in mind. Every human ship carried hidden weapons. Every human citizen knew how to kill. "Status on Ambassador Kim?" Temin asked. "Breaking through alien lines now, sir. Park Jin-ho's team is fighting their way to the extraction point, Ada, to pick up 15 minutes. Good. Signal all units across human space. Phase 2 is authorized." Second phase of the war would be even more brutal than the first. The aliens had seen human defensive capabilities, but they had not yet experienced human offensive warfare. They were about to learn what happened when you threatened humanity's children. On the P station, Ambassador Kim Nara ran through corridors filled with smoke and flashing lights. Behind her, Park Jin-ho and his team fought a running battle against alien security forces. The station shook with explosions as more human ships arrived to rescue their people. "Almost there," Jin-ho shouted over the noise of battle. "Extraction point dead ahead." Through the viewport, Kim could see human warships closing in on the station. They were not the sleek, beautiful vessels of the aliens. They were ugly, practical. Machines built for one purpose: to kill anything that threatened Earth's children. The galaxy was about to learn why humans were called the Warborn. 6 months had passed since the peace station had erupted into violence, and Ambassador Kim Nara stood in a place that no longer existed. The Jeltar capital world had once been the most beautiful planet in the galaxy, with crystal spires that sang in the wind and reached toward the stars like frozen music. Now it was a graveyard of shattered glass and broken dreams. The wind blew through the ruins, making a low, moaning sound that seemed to come from the planet itself. Where once there had been towering crystal cities, now there were only piles of glittering debris. The harmonic songs that had made this world famous throughout the galaxy had been silenced forever. Kim walked carefully through the wreckage, her boots crunching on broken crystal. Beside her, Colonel Lee Temin surveyed the devastation with the tired eyes of a soldier who had seen too much death. His uniform was clean and pressed, but his face showed the weight of all the battles he had fought. The Cathara Queen voice sent a message this morning, Taman reported, his voice flat and emotionless. They are requesting terms for surrender. Unconditional surrender. They are offering to dismantle their entire military infrastructure and withdraw from all occupied territories. Kim nodded, but she felt no satisfaction in the victory. The cost had been terrible. Entire human colonies had been destroyed in the opening hours of the war, their populations killed before the counterattack could save them. Billions had died on both sides, and the galaxy would never be the same. What about the Nexus hegemony? She asked. They retreated to their core systems 3 weeks ago, Temin replied. They are broadcasting warnings about humanity to every species in the galaxy. They are calling us demons, monsters, the end of civilized space. Kim looked around at the ruins and wondered if the aliens were right. Perhaps humans were monsters. Perhaps they had become the very thing they had once fought against. But if they were monsters, it was because the galaxy had given them no choice. In the distance, she could see human ships landing among the ruins. Their crews were beginning the long process of reconstruction, but they were not trying to rebuild the alien city. Instead, they were creating something new. A monument to the price of threatening Earth's children. A reminder to the galaxy of what happened when you pushed humanity too far. Perhaps we are monsters, Kim said quietly, watching human medics. 10 Djeltar survivors. But we did not choose to be. The human medics worked without hatred or anger, treating the alien wounded with the same care they would give to their own people. That was the strange thing about humans, Kim thought. They could be utterly ruthless in war, but they showed mercy to the defeated. They could destroy entire civilizations, but they would also save the survivors. Dr. Songmina approached through the ruins, her archaeological team already at work, cataloging what remained of the Djeltar civilization. She looked older than she had 6 months ago, her hair now streaked with gray, and her face lined with worry. They want to discuss mutual respect and peaceful coexistence. Kim almost smiled at the irony. For decades, humanity had tried to establish peaceful relations with the galaxy through diplomacy. They had offered trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and mutual defense pacts. The aliens had rejected every offer, treating humans like children who needed to be controlled. Now, after humanity had demonstrated what happened when diplomacy failed, suddenly everyone wanted to talk about peace and respect. Schedule the meetings, Kim decided, but make sure they understand that Earth stands ready to defend itself. Always. The galaxy had finally learned the lesson that humanity had been trying to teach through diplomacy. Peace was possible, but only when all parties understood the cost of war. The aliens had thought they could bully humanity into submission because humans were young and small. They had learned too late that being young meant being adaptable, and being small meant being willing to fight dirty. As the sun set over the alien ruins, casting long shadows across the broken crystal, Kim watched as humanity's flag was raised beside the banners of a dozen other species. But this was not conquest. This was the hard-won unity that came from mutual respect. Forged in the fires of war and tempered by the understanding that some prices were too high to pay, the Warborn had spoken. The galaxy had finally learned to listen. But the cost of that lesson would be remembered for generations to come. In the growing darkness, the ruins of the Crystal City gleamed like stars fallen to earth. The Djeltar had been proud and beautiful, masters of art and music and architecture. Now they were just another reminder of what happened when civilizations chose war over peace. Kim turned away from the ruins and walked toward the human ships. Tomorrow, there would be meetings with alien ambassadors who wanted to discuss peace. There would be treaties to negotiate and boundaries to establish. There would be the long, difficult work of building a galaxy where all species could coexist, without fear. But tonight, she would remember the price of victory. Tonight, she would honor the dead on both sides, and hope that the galaxy had learned enough from this war to prevent another one. The Warborn had won, but victory tasted like ash in their mouths.